All right, I think we will go ahead and get started. That's around 3 minutes after the hour. Welcome, everyone. My name is Robert Fodor. I am the VP of Sales and Concierge Services for Daniel House Club. I see some familiar faces, people we just saw recently. Hi, Diane. Hi, Heather. And who else? Margaret. I think Margaret is on here as well. And Colleen. Oh my God, I feel like I'm in Romper Room where you held up the little mirror and you said, I see all these people. Oh, and Sherry. Yeah, lots of folks.
So many friends. Oh my gosh.
I know. Welcome, everyone. And for those of you who have never attended a Concierge Hour, welcome. And this is your time to ask questions. It's also our time to give you some updates and what's going on in the club directly. And we're just fresh off of our trip to High Point, which was a great success. This was the first time that our entire team was actually at High Point Market, which was really exciting. And actually, we have a little celebrity with us, Heather Ferreras-Tocon. She's covering her eyes now. I hope she didn't go off camera. She was actually on one of our discussion panels with Zena, the credit card for interior designers, and also with Kimberly Selden from the Business of Design. So very, very happy to have all of you folks who were with us at High Point, and unfortunately those who weren't, but we're going to bring you some of the information that we received from High Point in some upcoming bulletins and emails. And also, if you have questions about High Point, feel free to just let them be known here in this forum. This forum is really just meant for everybody. It's for all members. Sometimes we even invite non-members who are thinking about becoming members so that they can understand just how this works. And that we also are promoting sort of a social club atmosphere. I think that was one thing that we just also got off of our company all hands meeting right after High Point. And it was one thing that we talked about was that we're really promoting this culture of being a social club as opposed to just being, sort of a buying group, because we're so much more than just a buying group. And so, yeah, very happy to have everybody aboard. Very happy to see everyone. I just want to introduce Peter Spalding. He's our co-founder and also our Chief Creative Officer.
Hey, welcome everybody. And yes, I'm really impressed, Robert, how awake you look after working straight through the weekend, having our retreat together, and managing all the orders that came in during that time. And same to Phil. And I don't know if Renee's on the call, but thank you all. And thanks to everyone who came and who's here today. And then I'll let Robert talk again in 1 second, but did want to mention that at 9:30, we're going to be joined by Erin Sullivan, who is the creative mind behind James Martin Vanities, which is a recent addition for Daniel House Club. We have a couple of their products up right now, but as always, if you're aware of something in their catalog, which is large, and you don't see it, please reach out to the concierge to get it added. So Erin will talk to you about how the designs at James Martin come to be at 9:30.
Great. Yeah, and so I think we'll go ahead and just start. We'll just delve into usually what we do for the concierge hours is we'll go through a brief training. If you have any questions, feel free to just blurt them out, or you can also put them into the chat function in Google Meet. So either way, whatever you feel more comfortable with. But we encourage people to talk if they want and if they feel comfortable doing so. And yes, we have both of our other concierges, Renee and also Phil, on the line as well. So they will be monitoring, and also Peter will be monitoring our chat function. So if there's any questions that come through chat, we will go through those as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take myself off of camera, but I'm not going away, and I'm going to be sharing my screen out. Just one moment here. Okay. So some of you may be familiar with our homepage. This is actually what our homepage looks like. We do change out the imagery here from time to time, but this is just our standard landing page at danielhouse.club. You're going to want to, each time you access the site, you're going to want to log in to see your specific pricing. So if you don't log in, all you're going to see is retail pricing. So if you do see just retail pricing, that's probably because you're not logged in, just FYI. So when we click log in here, now this little guy, this pops up. It's very annoying to me, but it's not annoying to some folks. It's the ShopPay app that our backend systems run off of Shopify, which also talk well to ShopPay. This is the ShopPay window. You do not need a ShopPay code in order to enter our site. You can simply X out of this if you want to. Now, there are some folks that use ShopPay points. So if you do use them, you can log in here. It sends you a code to your text or to email, and you can enter it in. But this is not required, just so that everybody is on the same page with that. So I'm just going to X out of it. The only thing that is required is your email and password. If you forget your password, just click forget your password, and it will automatically take you through the process. It'll send you a new link in order to set up your password again. So I'm going to click sign in, and then it will immediately take you to your dashboard page. And the dashboard page has a lot of information on it. So on the far left navigation menu here, you'll see your active projects, your 4 most recent projects here. If I wanted to look at all of my projects, I would just click on View All. And then over here, you'll also see graphically represented your 4 most recent projects as well. And then I also have the ability to create a new project or create a new board within a project, etc., from this functionality here on the site. I also can click on help, and it will take me to a screen where I can submit a question to the Concierge Services team. I can also start a claim. This would be for damage, defect, or warranty claims. I can start a claim here. We also have a frequently asked questions section, and I am going to click on this because we haven't really reviewed this recently. There's a lot of pictures here of Peter and Alex. Just kidding. But there are. And then we also have some interesting FAQs. So for example, we do have some shipping. What about shipping issues? How can I organize sourcing, etc.? What do I have in the way of commercial options? How does our Concierge Services team work? Things like that. And we're constantly adding to this as the month and weeks and even sometimes days go on. So do check back to the FAQs from time to time. We also have very handy how-to videos. If you click on this link, it will take you to our YouTube page, and that will take you to all of the how-to videos on how to create a project, how to create a board, how to create a cart, really just some of the basic functionalities of our site. And then the Contact Us link will contact you to put you in contact with our Concierge Services team. Now, we see our projects at the top, the 4 most recent projects, and then we also have a cart summary page here. So what are carts? Well, the system, and we'll go through this in more depth, you create a project and then you create boards within that project to then create a cart, which acts as sort of a quotation or a pro forma invoice, which you can share with your client. There's also just a share functionality, which is not transactional. So if you're in more of a collaborative stage with your client, you can use the share functionality as opposed to creating the cart immediately. I think the cart, like I said, acts as sort of a quotation or as a pro forma, which then makes the assumption that there is some transaction happening. So I think it makes it a lot easier if you're just sharing and in a collaborative state that you're not just immediately jumping to the transaction state of things. And we'll go through how to do each one of those. The carts that you create, however, are static. So they are a snapshot of a moment in time. So if you make changes to your project boards, it's not going to reflect in the carts that you've created. So the carts are just static to whatever you've done at that moment in time. If for whatever reason you've modified a cart, let's say for this Ireland project on South Clarkson Street, I've gone ahead and I've done so many changes to the board that this cart doesn't even matter anymore. So I'm just going to click on the delete button here, and it'll prompt you to make sure that you want to delete it. Click OK. And then basically that cart will now be gone. So I can just scroll down to the bottom and it's no longer there. A couple of things with the cart summary that you can look at. Obviously, you'll see what cart this is for. If you had multiple project boards that were included with the cart, it would show all of those board names. It shows the project name, who the recipient was, so who this client was, who you sent it to, the date that it was sent. So it shows that. It also will show the client total, how much the client is saving if you're sharing a portion of your discount through the site. If not, then basically you're just taking the full discount and then sharing with them whatever, or maybe even not. And then it would also show you what your potential commission is for this as well. These little icons over on the right are bolded out in black when something has been viewed, when it has been paid for, and also when it has been shipped. Now, this is not the only time that you get to find out whether or not something was paid for or shipped. We'll talk about that in a little bit as far as the notifications that you receive when you place an order or when your client places an order through the system. When you have a D number here in front of an order number, that just means that there has been a draft invoice that has been created for this order. That does not mean that the order has been placed. You will find a 4-digit number. Soon we're going to be going into 5-digit numbers for order numbers that do not have a D in front of them. D just means draft. It denotates draft. So anytime there's an order number here without a D, that means that it's actually been placed. All right, so let's go ahead and get into creating a new project. I'm going to go ahead and click on the new project button here. And then I'm just going to input information into the fields for first and last name. Now, the last name is one of the fields that we take in order to name a project. It's not only the last name, but it's also the address, the site address. So if you want to modify that in any way to make it more sense for you, you do have the ability to do that. It's not a required field that you put in a last name, but if there's something that makes more sense to you, you can put that information in there. Client email address is pretty self-explanatory. You can also put in a brief description of the project, maybe some notes that you have. This is a free text field, so you can put in whatever you want. And then also, if I'm going to share a portion of my discount, I can put in here how much I'm going to share with my client. So I'm just going to say I'm going to share 5% of my 50% discount. That does not mean that I'm sharing 5% total. So again, if we look at the details now, it's going to say I'm sharing 5% of my 50% discount. That means that your clients are going to get a 2.5% savings across the board, and you're going to potentially make a 47.5% profit margin on your project. This gives me some details. This little drop-down menu here shows me all of the details that I just created. It shows me the date that I created the project, as well as the target install date. You can go back and modify that if you wish by just clicking on Edit Project Details. I can also go back and change the discount. So maybe I'm going to give my clients a little better discount. Maybe I'm going to give them a little less discount, hopefully a little less, so you're making more money. I can go ahead and just change that at any time. Now, you do have the ability also to change the discount by board. So if you're working, let's say, on a living room that's extremely complex, or maybe an outdoor space that is complex, that takes a lot of time to do your sourcing, you can change that discount by board. You don't have to have just one discount by project. Right now, we don't have the ability to change the discount by item at the individual line item level. However, we will be doing that quite soon, probably in Q1 of 2025. So just coming up here in a couple of months. So then what I want to do now is I want to go in and create a board. And the way that I add a board is just click literally create a board, and I name the board whatever I want. So I can name it by the room name. I can also name it by the site name. I can name it by new items, something more vague. I can also create a board by vendor name. So if that makes more sense to you, you can do that way. Typically, we just see people name it by the name that the name of the room that they're actually working on. Again, I can change the discount level here if I want to, as I mentioned before, but I'm just going to leave it. And then I can also put in a brief description here if I'd like. And then I click Create Board. And this is now going to take me to the project board screen. So I can see now this is the project board. It's within living room. It's within the project that I just created. And it also shows me all of the discount, etc. And also once we start adding items, it will start showing you all of the stats here as well. Now I can just click on Start Sourcing Now here, or I can just go right to one of our product pages. I'm just going to go into sofas because that typically is one of the things that we start to look at when we're doing a living room. And I'm going to click on this four-hand Sabine sofa. A couple of things I just want to point out here on the product information pages. You will see the retail price as well as the map price and also your discounted price here. We did this for a reason because we wanted to have transparency across the board as to what your membership pricing gives you. So if a vendor provides us with retail versus map, because those are two different things sometimes, we will show all three. Sometimes vendors only provide us with map pricing. So you'll only see map and then whatever your membership discount is. This also, because it's a four hands item and we offer free standard shipping on all four hands items, it will show you whether or not an item has free shipping or not. So we'll show you any sort of promotional information here as well. And then also our lead time information is based on arrival. So this is going to be probably a little different than what you see if you have access to any of the vendor sites, because this takes into account transit time and also delivery time. And of course, these times are estimated, but we do try to adhere to them as best we can. And so do the vendors. Now, what I can do, I can simply just add this to a cart and check out and not associate it to any project, or I can add it to the board that I just created under the project that I just created. And that's what I want to do pretty much at every turn because I just want to have everything really organized. So I'm going to click Add to Board. I'm going to click Living Room because that's the room I just added. It will say that this has now been added. And then I can go back to this project by just clicking on the project name. And I can go into the board and I already see that the sofa is there. And a couple of things I just want to point out here. Again, we'll start populating this with board stats. So your clients will be saving $31 on this purchase. And your potential profit will be $598 for this item. But as you can see here, how this is populated is based upon the discount that you're providing to your clients. So they're never going to see your entire discount unless you want to share the entire discount with them. So this is whatever the discount is that you're sharing with them. I think a little tip as a former interior designer myself, and Peter can probably pipe up to this as well, and maybe some of our members even. I never stipulated to my clients when I was an interior designer how much they were getting off of retail. I literally just told them they would not pay retail, and that was in my contracts. I made it deliberate because there are some times when I just can't make I can't give them a flat discount. I think that it's probably a pretty smart way to let your clients know that they aren't going to be paying retail without committing to a specific number for them. And also, if they're looking for just a number, it might raise a cautionary flag with you that they might just be using you for your discount, which again, those are not the type of client that we want. All right. So I'm at the point now where I'm going to go ahead and share this item with my client. Maybe I've added many more items and I can do the same thing at this point. But again, as you might remember, I mentioned that you have a collaborative function and then you have a transaction function. The share board function is actually the collaborative way. Now you can share it with or without pricing information, but this does not allow for any transaction. So it won't allow them to add or delete items. It's literally just to share a board with them or multiple boards with them if you wish, if you have multiple boards created for a particular project. And then the nice thing is that you can do it with or without pricing. So I'm going to share it without prices. And again, I can share it directly through the app here, or I can just simply click copy link and I can put it into an email of my own and send it to the client directly that way. So a couple of different ways that you can do that collaboratively. And then once my clients have given me the final okay to actually sign off on it, then I can go to checkout and make it a transaction. So this is like creating a quotation to them or a pro forma, which you'll send to them. We just call it a cart. And you can check out with your own card. That means that you're taking the full discount and you're going to invoice them offline. You can also check out with your client's card. So that makes it really nice if you're sharing a portion of your discount through Daniel House Club. You can check out with their card acting as them, or you can send it to your client directly and have them check out directly. So I'm going to go ahead and use the send to my client function. And I can select as many boards here as I want. This only has one board for this particular project. And then I just click create cart. So this basically creates my quotation or my pro forma for me. I can put in a subject here as well as any type of email message. It's going to verify what your total discount is, also what your discount share is. So I can still make changes here if I want to change my discount. And then also I can remove items still, and I can also allow my clients to have the ability to remove products or not by just tapping on this button. Now, the other nice thing is that you can add your own products or services here. So maybe let's say, oh, I don't know, you have a vintage piece that you want to invoice the client for, and you just want to have the same invoice across the board, keep your fee invoice separate, and have all products on one page. You can actually add items here that are not Daniel House Club products. And it's really nice, especially if you're providing a discount or anything like that. It just automatically takes that discount for you. And you can add anything that you want. We have had clients who have also added their fees here. They just want to have everything in one place. So whatever your preference is, but you do have the ability to add what we call a custom line item. The other nice thing that we just added here is right when you're creating your cart, you'll find out what your payout will be for this particular order. We did not have this before. It was just provided at the board level, not at the cart level. Again, we just put the warning here that your client won't see this information. It's just for your edification. But this is nice for you to know because you'll know right off the top just how much you're going to make on the product. And then I just select shipping. We ship within the US and Canada. And then I can select what level of shipping I want. I'm just going to go ahead and select standard shipping, but you do have the ability to select expedited and also room of choice with packaging removal and white glove. The difference between room of choice with packaging removal and white glove is actually quite minimal other than assembly. Room of choice will not assemble the item. They will just place the item and remove the packaging materials. So for a sofa, for example, that doesn't require assembly, this is probably a much better option than white glove. White glove will give you assembly. So if you have a bookcase or maybe a cabinet or something like that that requires assembly, they will do everything and then obviously place it in wherever you want it to be placed and remove the packaging materials. And then I just click preview cart. Again, I can still remove items here if I want to, or change quantities of items, and then just click send. And then it will automatically send the invoice, and then it will appear in the inbox. It will not have Daniel House Club's name on it. It will actually have your name on it, and it will say, you know, Robert Smith has shared a invoice with you. Similarly, when you're sharing a board, it will never say Daniel House Club's name. It will say your name only. I think down at the bottom in small print, it says powered by Daniel House Club, but that's it. So they will know exactly who they're getting either a shared board from or a pro forma invoice / cart from. Few more things before we head on, because we're into the half hour here, that I just wanted to show. So if we go back to the product page, if we scroll down here, you'll see weight and dimension information. You'll see further specifications. This is from the vendor directly. What our shipping policy is, and also what our return policy is, and also the damage and defect policy. I wanted to point that out because if remorse returns may be of an issue with you, sometimes a lot of you will just put that there's no remorse returns allowed with your contracts, and I think that's very smart. But sometimes that happens. And just be careful when you're placing an order, when you're recommending items to a client, because there are a handful, probably 5 or 6 vendors who do not allow for remorse returns. I know it seems kind of silly in this day and age to not allow for remorse returns, but there are some who don't, unfortunately. So just be mindful of that. Are there any questions before we move on? It's about 2 minutes before 12:30. So just want to open it up to any questions before we move on to our guest lead hour.
I have a question regarding the remorse returns, and really any return, I guess. Well, no, so more so if there's not a defect. Is there a restocking fee?
Yeah, so we actually enforce the policies of our vendors. So if the vendor requires a restocking fee and return shipping, then that's what we enforce as well. Now, one of the things that we did talk about, just so everybody knows, during our all hands meeting that we just had after High Point, is enacting our own return policy. And there may be a circumstance coming up in 2025 when we actually do that. And it would basically be like insurance that you purchase with your items, so that if a remorse return happens, you don't have to pay for the restocking fee, the return shipping. And also, even if a vendor doesn't allow for the return, then you can still return it to DHC. That is not part of our offering right now, but we are looking to do that upcoming.
Great, thank you. And then also I was wondering if you could share a board, like a completed, if you can show an example of a completed board for a room and what that looks like.
Sure. Yeah, let me just go back. I'll share my screen out. I'm just going to go back to my account page and then go to dashboard. Oh, I could have just gone to projects. Sorry about that. I don't know how many items I had in this particular. Oh, I had 2 bed linens. That was all. I didn't have anything in this, but this was actually for a client, believe it or not. I do still have some clients. Yeah, so this is, if you have multiple boards, it's going to show up within your project. So if you just click on the project name and go back to the project, it will show here. It'll show the various boards here in the quadrant as to which project boards you have. So did that answer your question, or did you want to see like any more information about it?
Well, so the board is just a page with images of the pieces in kind of a grid format, or
no. So if you click into the project and then click into any one of the boards that you created, for example, it's going to show you a whole bunch of information.
I see. Okay.
So it'll show you some statistical information about if you're sharing your discount, how much your savings on this, how much you're going to get as a payout, and then also show you exactly how much your client's going to pay, indicated here.
I see.
And then also, you know, ETA, estimated arrival, all of that information.
I get it. Okay, so I was thinking it was a design board.
Oh yeah, so good question about that. That was also something we did speak about as well during our all hands, is making a more of like a mood board presentation, inspiration board type function. So we are looking into hopefully integrating something like
Hey,
Thank you.
I have a
Oops,
question.
Peter, sorry, you're muted.
can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Always something exciting here at DHC. We are accepting a delivery with a freight elevator down, and I'm watching this guy roll a couch down the street. So I'm going to say goodbye. I trust that you don't need me too much. So thank
problem.
you. And
All right.
I'll talk to you guys later.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks, Peter. Bye-bye. Hi, Lindsay. You had a question?
Hi. Yeah, sorry. On the delivery, if you have multiple items in the cart, are you able to pick different delivery methods for each individual item, or is it just one delivery method for everything?
Yeah, good question. Right now, no. However, that is forthcoming. So you will have the ability to do that by line item for, if you want to select particular items. The other thing that I strongly recommend right now, until we get that released, is call our concierge services line, because we can help you with understanding what items require assembly and what items don't, and also what items would just be fine for standard delivery. And we can kind of split them up into separate boards for you. And then you can check out accordingly that way. And you'll probably save quite a bit on
That makes
shipping.
sense.
Yeah.
And then actually, I have one more question. Sorry.
Sure.
I generally try to, if I can, not get in the middle of sales tax. Do you guys collect sales tax?
You're reading my mind, Lindsay. That was the next thing I was going to talk about, actually. So we did not have sales tax for a long time, because the way that the waiver tax laws were written, which is what all e-commerce websites abide by, is it's if you have a tax nexus in a certain state. So if your sales reach a certain level, then you have sales tax. We did this year just reach our sales tax nexus in Florida, North Carolina, New York, and California. So for those 4 states, we do charge sales tax currently. For the other states, we don't. However, in 2025, we're going to be having some tax nexus coming up for other states as well. And then eventually we will be having to roll it out for all states. So it's based upon where the item is being shipped to, just so you know.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Sure.
So still talking about shipping, if you order multiple items from the same vendor, can you hold the items to all be delivered at once, or will they just be delivered individually based on availability, sort of like a receiver would?
Yeah, very good question. Right now, we have the ability to ship just as items become available. However, a couple of things. One, if you want to email concierge services ahead of your order, or even after your order, if things have similar lead times, or if they're in stock, we can group items together by vendor. So right now we don't have it cross vendor, but by vendor. So if you're ordering, Uttermost items and Forehands items, we can group all those together if they have similar lead times, and also if they're in stock. We'll check with the vendor to find out what can be done to make sure that the most items come at the same time.
Okay.
Now, we don't have a freight consolidation service right now. However, that is also something that's going to be hopefully in 2025. And that will ostensibly eliminate the need for a receiver, hopefully. That will be across vendors. So you can basically ship everything to a receiving facility or to one of our delivery agents, who will then store the items until you want to have the items delivered. There will obviously be a storage fee associated with that, but we're hoping it will be less and more competitive than a receiver, a formal receiver.
Okay. Another question on specific items. Is it possible for you guys to get samples or additional specs to create like tear sheets, like like cleaning, everything from cleaning codes to weight limits? Like, is it possible to do that through you guys?
Yes, yes, and yes. You can order
Awesome.
all of that through us. You can order samples and swatches through us. If you need a formal tear sheet from a vendor, we can get that for you. We can also get any additional care instructions that the vendor may have. all of that. We try to be as proactive with that when you purchase something, like for teak in particular, we send a teak care guide. But yeah, you can request any of that through us. Absolutely.
And that's just through the concierge service. We just contact concierge and do it that way. Okay.
You can either call, live chat, or email.
Awesome. Yeah, I've done the live chat a few times. I just signed up with you guys and it's worked really well. Even at market, you guys were still very responsive. So I appreciate that.
I appreciate that, because sometimes we're not able to get to live chat right away, but we always will follow up with you in writing via email if we're not able to get to you via live chat. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Sure.
I have two quick questions, Robert.
Yeah. Hi, Diane.
Hi. So when you were talking about assembly, so is that I was actually going to ask that. So that would be helpful to know in terms of deciding on the shipping. So we should connect with you for trying to figure out if it, a table or a sideboard or something needs assembly.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, good. And then my second question, when somebody was asking about the boards, I think we've talked about this, about how I do my boards through design files. And so is there any talk of there being a partnership with design files to make that easier?
Yeah, we have spoken with design files quite actually earlier this year. The integration to design files is about a 6-month process.
Okay.
So we will be doing that in some capacity, and that will likely happen next year.
Okay.
So right now you do have the ability to use their Clipper tool on our site, and you can use the Clipper tool and then put it into design files, but there is not a full integration right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
And we're also potentially looking at MyDoma and Canva as well.
Okay.
All right. It is 10 minutes past the half hour, so I do want to go ahead and get started. Now, if you have questions and you weren't able to get to them, or we weren't able to get to them right now, I encourage you to stay on. We can stay on for a few moments after 1 o'clock. But I do want to introduce Erin Sullivan. She is with James Martin Vanities, one of our newer vendors, but we're very excited to have them on board. We have received a lot of interest in Vanities in general, and also lots of interest with James Martin in particular. So Erin, are you on with us?
I am. Hello.
Hi, Erin.
Thank
Sorry,
you.
I'm looking at the Brady Bunch tiles.
Sure. Yeah.
Until you speak, that's the only
Okay,
time I
very
can see you.
Okay.
All right, great. So I would like to introduce Erin to our audience. Erin, you have a bunch of members here from Daniel House Club who want to know more about Vanities. So I'm going to let you go ahead and take it away.
Okay.
And we'll go ahead and get started.
All right. Okay, can everybody see this pretty well?
Yes, perfect.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna, so my name's Erin Sullivan. I am the Director of Design at James Martin Vanities. I've been with the company for 3 years. And I have been, prior to that, have a long, extensive history in furniture design. I was with Frontgate for 19 years. I was with a company by the name of Fine Furniture Design for about 2.5 years. They were vertical manufacturer out of High Point, and then Bernhardt for a little bit, about 1.5 years before I was had an opportunity to come to James Martin and kind of help get their vanity category business to the next level. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to walk you through kind of what our design process is, share a little bit about the company philosophy on vanity design, and also then I'm going to give you some background into the inspiration that led to the designs that we introduced at KBIS in 2024, and then show you, what those designs were. So we see kind of the inspiration and the trends and how we applied those. And that's, and kind of hit on, a few of those trends that I saw still very relevant today as just coming back from High Point myself as well. Okay. All right. So just kind of walking through the process. So everything starts with the inspiration. And sometimes it's a need, and sometimes then it's the, inspiration as well. But it's really just what's going to trigger these next thoughts on the product that we want to introduce. And we do one large introduction each year, and it's all based on the timing for KBIS. So inspiration is coming from other trade shows. High Point, there are trade shows in Europe that, while I've not been traveling recently to Europe to those trade shows, I do follow all of the reports from those shows. Trade pubs, social media, Pinterest, Instagram, and then data trends also that we get from the industry in terms of what customers are looking for, because it's especially in something like a bathroom where you're talking about product that needs to be functional. It's very important that we consider what customers are looking for in terms of the function side of the piece. Our business trends, what recent introductions or what's in our line that's working, what do we want to leverage, what do we need to extend, and then gap analysis. What are we missing? What are we missing based on what we're seeing out in the industry? What are our customers telling us? What are our sales team, marketing telling us? Competition is obviously something else we need to look at. And then design collaborations. And what this is we work with a lot of high-end manufacturers, and a lot of them are doing or have contracted designers from all over the world that have done very high-end product design. And so we spend time collaborating, sharing trend ideas, and they're able to, they have the outreach with a lot of other manufacturers and materials that can help bring ideas that maybe we don't have the scope to at the time. So that's kind of where we start. And then the next step would be to kind of gather all of that information and put it together in terms of, okay, what are we going to put to concept? Let's build trend boards. Let's look at, what we think is relevant. How many collections do we want to introduce? What business are we trying to drive? And then start to put some rough sketches together. So that's like concepting is really saying, I like this form. I want to add this element that I've seen out there, and then just trying to put it all together so that then we can take it to the next phase, is really line art. So it's really, that's bringing it into kind of a reality and bringing it to life and saying, okay, now we've got to, this is how it's all coming together. And one thing with the vanity is, we have to, not only are there standards in the industry for sizes that help in terms of search terms, but when you've got your 36, your 72s, when you kind of go off on an odd number, just because if you want a design to work, you kind of have to stretch it a little bit because of symmetry and everything. We don't really have the option to do that because we have tops that we have to retrofit to. So all of that has to be considered, that we have a top and the sink is always in the same spot. But the vanities, when we design them, we got to make sure as best we can that we want to line up something in that vanity with the faucets, whether it's the center of the faucet or it's, if it's a widespread, then we're at least lining up with the left side so that everything else is symmetrical on the other side. And it does become a challenge. But that trade-off of being able to offer that semi-customization is very important for us. So all those things we have to consider is, once we have a design concept, we kind of have to lay the line art of the top of the cabinet, the quartz top, and then we have to line up everything, and then we have to make shifts. So it's sometimes we have to make concessions and pass on something because it just doesn't work out because of the limitations sometimes that we have. So then we have to go to a different plan. So some of you will see there's a lot of products in our line that does have a lot of faucets that maybe don't line up. And that was because at the time, I think and this is before my time, that we had a lot of cabinets, and then we started to build a retroactive program where we could be more uniform. And so we didn't have at that time to go back and change the cabinets. So as we evolved and knew that these were going to be our programs, this is the template for our tops, then we're able to design into that. So we get a lot of questions about sometimes why the sinks aren't aligned on a set of doors or drawers. So, and that's why. And then the final stage would be the renderings. And this really brings it to life. The goal is this, let's see it in the finishes that we're going with. Let's see on the hardware. Let's try different hardware. Let's try different finishes. And this really helps narrow everything down. So once we get to this, then we say, okay, now we're going to go to full engineer drawings. We're going to send them to the factory and start to get pricing, start to really fine tune the finishes, go back and forth with whether it's Sherwin or another source that we're working with, approve the panels, and then go into the sampling phase. So that's pretty much the process. It's very time consuming. It's really takes about a year between when you start a concept and when you can really start bringing in the inventory. And if you consider that for transportation alone, it's 2 months. So that doesn't include also, just the production time for a first time run is usually 120 days. And then you've got all the work ahead of time where the phases of sampling, depending on, usually we never get it right the first time. We always make changes. So sampling the first round might take 6 weeks, but then you might have to spend a week going through and making updates to the initial designs, and then you have to go through another phase of development. And depending on whether we can just make modifications to the existing samples, or we need to start from scratch, that affects the time as well. So, but we all have because of the launch time, and just like a lot of furniture companies do, they got 2 high point markets. Everything's based around. We have this one KBIS show that we've got to make sure that we've got the product in time to be at the show, and get it sent. So our timeline starts there and then works backwards. And we also want to make sure we've got a timely launch for the product. In the past, James Martin has done launches at KBIS, and then the product gets purchased based on the response. We have modified that so that we are proactively getting some commitments from some of our larger customers and getting an idea on the potential. And then we're able to make commitments on the inventory. So we're placing POs so that the product is arriving really at the same time that we are at the show. Okay, so this is just kind of our design philosophy, and I'm not going to read through this in great detail, but really our philosophy is about, we believe that this vanity is, it's not just a cabinet that's in your bathroom, it's a piece of furniture. And we like the saying that, our product looks like something that is brought in versus built in. So our legacy started with designs that really were pieces of furniture that you never would expect to ever be a vanity, but looked like it was retrofitted. And that's kind of evolved from that. So all of our inspiration really comes from furniture. But outside of just looking like furniture and having those aesthetics, it's built like fine furniture as well. So solid wood frames, the joinery, we don't use nails and screws to hold it all together. It's all with joinery that doesn't require that. So, and this is all old world kind of techniques. English dovetail joinery in the drawer boxes is one example of that. So, and then, the details in the product, we understand that, this is a vanity. This is probably one of the most functional pieces of furniture you have in your home. And so we've added elements to that to make it more functional and increase the experience. So one thing that James Martin has, which has been pretty exclusive to us, are the linings in the drawers. We have aluminum laminate, which makes it very easy. First of all, it just gives you an overall cleaner thought when you open your drawers and know that there's that clean sheet of aluminum and it's easy to clean. So that's something that really differentiates our product. And then we add power to most of our units as well for added convenience. But really think through maximizing storage as much as we can in a combination, making sure that we get an aesthetically pleasing piece as well. So, and then part of, and what I alluded to earlier, was the semi-custom approach. So all of our vanities, we have to make sure that we have the opportunity to offer the full extension of our options of our tops. And so depending on the collection, they might have one finish, but some might have up to 5 or 6. So the option of making all these different combinations and personalizing it. So that's really something that's unique, especially for somebody on the wholesale side, to provide that to our customers. So that's really our that's our design philosophy that goes into everything in terms of that whole timeline that's built into this. So next, I'm kind of take you through what inspired the designs that we launched in 2024. And all of these inspiration came from all the elements that I mentioned earlier, and then specific studies and trends from WGSN, High Point, Pinterest, Salone in Milan, and Google Trends. So one of the first aesthetics that we went after was this modern minimalism, and some other terms for this are minimalux, Mediterranean minimalism, and then the Scandinavese Japandi. So this influence of the Scandinavian influence is still prevalent, very simplistic, but taking on more natural organic forms. Soft contours and curves, very important, and this continues at High Point. Most furniture, most case goods, as well as upholstery, focusing on the contours and the curves. The layering of warm and earthy tones and natural materials and textures. So a lot of warmer woods coming back versus the grays, and that's in all shades, from lights to mediums to darks. You really saw it all. Artisanal and sculptural accents. So seeing a lot of, whether it's a table base or the legs, there's a play on geometry. So it's sculptural forms, textures. So it's bringing that artistic approach to the furniture, rather than just having this simplistic box that we started, to have, a couple years ago. Next is farmhouse, and farmhouse takes, it has not gone away. It just takes on a new twist. Mid-century has had a lot of influence in this, and this organic minimalism. And then there's also a take on it that's more expressive, that adds a lot of color to it as well, and more eclectic. So farmhouse is not where it started 10 years ago. It's a little bit more eclectic and a little bit more, has much of a modern twist to it. And this as well has a Scandinavian influence also. Retro, vintage, nostalgia, just some element in the furniture brings something back that, whether it's mid-century or a splash of something from a genre from 60s all the way through the 90s. It can be brought in terms of color. It can be brought in terms of a form or a shape. And we are seeing a lot of scallop edges coming back. Started last market, saw a lot of it this market, especially just a larger scallop, but upholstery, both upholstery and case goods. And then bold patterns. Tempered maximalism. This is really that whole expressive idea, and what's very clear, and you can see it from a lot of the manufacturers, that not one manufacturer has a particular voice. It's really about offering the customer a choice of creating an eclectic space and creating their own aesthetic with, making trend relevant elements. And so maximalism allows somebody to, add their expressive style, something that's personal to them, but keep it tempered, and that it still has some rhythm to it, and calming, and it's not just too loud. So that continues to be important in design as well. And then most important really is tactility and texture. There really wasn't any furniture that we saw at High Point that didn't have some sort of visual and tactile texture. And it's really coming through in the reading. We continue to see in it's brought into lighting as well. So it's just that this has not gone away at all. It's really taken to the, IC has been taken to the next level this past market. But then any other sort of dimension, there's woods that look like folds. It's just really any very creative ways to add dimension to the product, as well as natural textures. So that's very important for what we developed for this past year, and it'll be trending for what we develop for this launching in 25, as well as probably for the next year or so to come. Wood hues, as I mentioned earlier, are getting a little bit warmer, and it's really about that texture. The sandblasted timber is something that's extremely interesting, and something that we're it's a little sneak preview of what we are looking at for our launches for 2025. Burl wood, extremely important. It was last year, and again, saw it a lot this year, although there's different takes on it. Some are going a lot darker, and some there was more of this bleached look, but then there's whites. So that's really, it's all about celebrating nature and the natural elements and intrinsic details of the woods. So that's something we definitely focused on for the development. Curves and contours. Again, earlier I said, in terms of different elements of the furniture, this is about the shape of the piece in general, and that's just really breaking out of that box. So curves and contours continue to be extremely important, and we'll be continue to leverage that. This is woven accents and surface intervention. So what we started to see last year emerge is just really a play on using any sort of natural material to weave through the product or have woven elements somewhere on it. We saw it in upholstery. And when we're talking about surface interventions here, we're talking about how the woven elements are not just in the front, they always interface with something, a flat surface on top. So if you're looking at something straight on, that woven element comes into the frame of that piece. So that's been an important, it's kind of like what you can see here. So this continues to be very strong, whether it's cane details or there's raffia, there's all kinds of, there's woven leathers. So this continues to just be very strong, and some very creative things that are being done with these natural materials.
Hey, Erin.
Yes.
Thank you. And sorry that I missed the beginning because I was so excited about this. We are at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
And so I just want to acknowledge, if people do need to leave, please go ahead. How many more slides do you have?
I just have not much. I can just because we've gotten kind of the behind the scenes now. I can just kind of run through those collections and then see if there's
okay. Great. So anyone who would like to stay on, we're going to stay on. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. All right. So then just some more raw, natural materials and marbles, still very important as well. And then marble taking on a little bit more life, adding a little bit more movement to it and color, and just all about that natural look and feel. Okay, so then after giving you that background, I'll walk you through the collections that we launched this year and how they're relevant. So this is the Celeste Vanity. This brings in this warm hue of this wood tone that has the light cerusing in it, and then we contrast that with the shagreen. So, and then we bring a little bit of opulence with the acrylic doors or door panels. And what's clear here, there's 3 different elements going on here, and we saw a lot at High Point where it's not just 2 mixed materials, it's 3 or more. So we've covered this element here, and feel that this is going to continue to be an important feature. The Elena, again, using that burl that we took advantage of, and then we contrasted against the white simple surface on the lacquer. And then Marigot, this brought in this nostalgia of the tambour door. The tambour door also gives you the texture, and it's also space saving. So when you need to get inside the cabinet, you don't need to step away to open the door. You just pull it to the side. So very convenient. And when you open those on both sides, there's no power unit there for convenience. But again, this is this wire brushed wood with this light cerusing and very natural wood tones. And then this is Mirren. This takes advantage of the fluting and does it in a directional that confluences the horizontal with the vertical to give you visual interest and a little twist on the texture. And then we added this smooth kind of toggle knobs, and just with a very simplistic French European style form. And then taking advantage of this nature's element in the top. So we added new style stone that adds a lot more movement. Some of this you cannot capture it in these photos, but it's got flecks of copper in it. Just really brings all of this to life. You've got a Lime Delight, which is take on limestone with a little bit of that feel of a just a flex, very mid-century kind of a look. And then the Victorian Silver also has elements of like a light stone elements inside that have a little bit of iridescence to them. So that was kind of how we kind of brought everything to life and took advantage of those trends in our offering for 2024.
Thank
Wonderful.
you. I did just want to do a little 30-second infomercial for you guys, because I used to be like a complete vanity snob myself and would always insist that we have it built on site for the exact location. And I've now ordered 3 James Martin Vanities, and every single client has just been blown away by the level of thought and quality that goes into the pieces. Like you said, the aluminum bottom in the drawers is just amazing, especially for somebody like me who is like out of sight, out of mind, and the toothpaste is like oozed onto the bottom. It's so easy to clean off. So I just love them, and we're really happy to have you as part of our family of vendors. So thank you.
Be one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erin.
All
And
right.
we're really, really excited to have you guys on board. And I think just we receive, myself, speaking from the Concierge Services team, we get questions like almost daily about vanities. So I'm really excited to see that vanities are kind of becoming as much of an importance as furniture, because they really are furniture in your house. So yeah.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Well, thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Erin.
Thanks.
And we're just about 4 minutes after the hour right now, so I do apologize that we ran over a little bit over time, but that's all right. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take any questions. For those who are not able to stay on, that's fine too. I did, before everybody goes away, I just wanted to make 2 announcements. One, our November Concierge Hour will not be happening because it's actually on Thanksgiving Day. So we opted to just not have November Concierge Hour. And for the December Concierge Hour, that's actually the day after Christmas. So we opted to have it on the 2nd of January, which is the week after. So it's a little, just because of the holidays, the way that they landed this year, we will be having those 2 changes for the November and December Concierge Hours. Okay. All right. Well, thank you again so much. And if anybody has questions, feel free to stay on. Again, I just want to reiterate, if you have questions, if you're confused about anything, if you just want to chat with somebody and brush ideas past, our Concierge Services team is always available. We are open between 9 and 6 p.m. Eastern Time, Monday through Friday. You can reach us over the phone, by live chat, or by email. If we don't get to your live chat right away, we will most assuredly reach you over email. But usually somebody's there during those business hours as well. Thank you again, and happy holidays to everybody. Happy Halloween and good Diwali to everyone if you celebrate Diwali. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will stay on and take questions from folks.